I used to be one of the laziest people on planet Earth. I can tell you so many stories to show you how lazy I used to be. I mean, I used to smoke weed. I used to probably smoke 10 to 12 bowls or blunts a day, every single day. I once had a 0.00 GPA in college. I dropped out of school. I went through periods of my life where I did nothing but watch TV 14 hours a day. I used to drink 7 days a week. I had long periods of my life where I did absolutely nothing, where I felt no motivation, where I had what you might even call a level of depression, where I just wasn't doing anything. This went on for a couple of years, and obviously now in the form that I exist, a lot of people wouldn't even believe that about me. A lot of people wouldn't know how much of a transformation and a transition I had to go through to stop being lazy and start being motivated. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to become motivated, and I'm going to share some stories and insights that are going to give you the inspiration to feel like you can do it, because I've been in the depths of laziness before, so I can really relate. I can relate to what it feels like to have all these dreams in your mind and things you want to do, but you literally don't feel like doing anything. So how do you become motivated? How do you transform your life? That's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. But before we get to that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you get brand new videos whenever they come out. If you're on another platform like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, use the tools on that platform to share with your friends, whether that's sharing to your story, hitting the like button, heart emoji, whatever it is. I appreciate your engagement in advance. Okay, so the one thing that's important to understand about motivation is that there is no human being on planet Earth that lacks motivation. So when you tell yourself you're not motivated, this is a false statement. You're just not motivated to do quote unquote productive things, right? So really, if you look at the word motivation in its simplest form, motivation is basically a reason why you do something, right? So if you watch TV all day, you are motivated to watch TV. There is a reason why you watch TV. If you are not doing well in school, if you are working at a job you don't like, if you are feeling stuck and you're doing activities that seem like they're lazy activities, you just have to understand that you are, even though you're doing a lazy activity, there is a motivation behind it, right? When you watch TV, your motivation might be to get distracted. Your motivation might be to just, be entertained. If you are loafing around on the couch all day, your motivation might be to avoid difficulty, right? So understanding and kind of using that frame that motivation is something that's always in you, and just understanding that it can be redirected in a different direction, and you don't have to conjure up motivation out of thin air. It's something that already exists and just needs to be moved. That's a really good frame that helped me understand how motivation works and how to turn things around. And this kind of moves on to my next point of how to use motivation the right way, and it's understanding that motivation is a reason for doing something. So if you want to start being motivated to do positive things, you got to find the right reason. You have to find a compelling reason. And so I'm going to go through some of the reasons that I use to get motivated, and hopefully some of them are going to give you that spark to help you start getting motivated and doing some of the activities, habits, strategies, and routines that you know that you need to do deep down. So a big compelling source of motivation for me, a really solid reason that got me started, was simply finally, for once in my life, just doing the things that I was curious about. And when I started to do things that I was curious about, it created a compelling reason for me to keep going. So all throughout school, I hated school. I was always a very intelligent person, but I did horrible in school. I dropped out of school. I got Fs. I got terrible grades, all that. And one of the reasons why, other than, I could have worked harder, but one of the reasons why the education system was so difficult for me to go through was the fact that I could kind of see through the BS, and I would look, and none of the things that they were teaching me really seemed relevant to my life. A lot of the stuff that they were teaching me in school was being crammed down my throat. I didn't like being forced to learn. I didn't like being forced to learn about things in a certain way. But the minute that I started my own self-education, the minute that I started doing things that I was interested in, things that I had been curious about for a long time, all of a sudden, I was motivated to keep learning. So Naval Ravikant has this saying, and he says that following your genuine curiosity, your intellectual curiosity, is a much better strategy for your career than chasing money. And that was very true for me. As soon as I found something that I was interested in doing just for the sake of doing it, it was a lot easier to get motivated. So, I hated school, but you see this bookshelf behind me. I started, looking online and, learning more about self-improvement. And a lot of these self-improvement teachers would talk about books. And I was always fascinated in the subject of self-improvement. So when I started reading books that I was choosing to read, then all of a sudden reading became very easy to me. I chewed through, I think the first year I read like 75 books in 1 year because it was so fascinating to me. When it came to writing, when I started doing it, it was like doors unlocked in my brain. I have so many thoughts about the world. Like I can't stop running my mouth about the things I see in society. I've always been that way. So when I channeled it into the right medium, then it became very easy for me to stay motivated. So for you, don't base your motivation off the things you think you should be doing. Don't base your motivation off of things that you think will make you happy. Don't base your motivation off of money. Don't base it off of status. Don't base it off of, societally approved careers. Base it off of your curiosity. What are the things that you're interested in? You can channel that the right way. Some people might say something like playing video games is an unproductive activity, but you see people are making a living playing video games, right? So it's all about structuring your energy in the right way and finding something that you're really, really curious about, regardless of, what you think your friends will think about it or anything like that. That is a really great source of motivation, and that's going to help you stay the course. Another good source of motivation, I've talked about this time and time again, is finding areas where you already have like a little bit of talent, a little bit of a foundation, a little bit of a semblance of an idea that you might be good at it, and then building on top of that. So I actually just shot a video about how to figure out what to do with your life. And in that video, I talk about finding areas where you already have a base level of talent, figure out how to do that using, you could use personality tests, feedback from your friends. I talked about that in the other video. But once you find something that you're kind of decent at and you get better at it, you just build a snowball of passion, right? So there's this misguided idea that passion is something that comes out of thin air, but passion is really something that comes as a result of you building competence in an area. So the minute you get into something that you kind of have a talent for and you get a little bit better at it, you start to become addicted to getting better at it, right? And this is how your brain works. Your brain operates on a set of feedback loops, right? So when you're in a lazy period of your life, your laziness begets more laziness. You're lazy, so you beat yourself up for being lazy, which further reduces your energy, which makes you even lazier, right? But when you find something that you're kind of good at and you start working on it, the better you get, the more you want to keep going. So I remember the very early days of my writing, and I would put an article out. A couple people would read it, and I'd get that little dopamine hit, and it would make me feel good. So I'd want to write another article, and then more people would read it. Then I'd get an even bigger dopamine spike, and I rode those dopamine spikes for the past 6 years to go from, I won't even use the exact numbers, but I started very, very little results, and then eventually things just took off, and I developed kind of a healthy obsession with building skills. over the years, I've had to learn a lot of different skills to get where I'm at today. Not just writing, but things like in marketing, different tech elements, all sorts of stuff. Like I've learned so much, and I've been able to stay motivated, because I found things that were interesting to me based on my curiosity, but then I combined it with things that I actually had a chance to be good at, and that just created like this huge catalyst that made it a lot easier to be motivated. So finding something you're good at and building those positive feedback loops is going to be another beneficial tool to help you stay motivated. And then another thing that helped me is just kind of the overall understanding that it was just the underlying theme that I always wanted to do something better with my life. I always wanted to do something important, and I always feared that I would end up not being able to do those things. So kind of the fear and frustration that I had, a couple of years back, looking forward and wondering, when are you going to pull this off, Aya? When are you going to start making something of yourself? When is enough going to be enough? And I made a decision one day. I really consciously made a decision that I was going to change my life. I remember I was in my room in my ratty apartment that I was paying $250 a month to live in, had no money. I looked around at my surroundings. I looked at all the mistakes I had made up until that point. I looked at all the areas where I just threw my potential into the trash. I really felt the pain of all the self-inflicted problems that I had in my life. And I literally stood up and I yelled, "I'm not effing living like this anymore." I just told myself that. And then that very same day, I started learning different things, and I started cleaning up my act, and I really never looked back. So that kind of bridged into those other two topics that I mentioned, the curiosity. So as soon as I decided that I wanted to change, then I started getting curious about what it took to change. And then I started following through on some of those areas where I thought I had a talent in. But it started with that kind of pure level of frustration where I was like, you know what, dude, this ain't it. And that's going to be something critical for you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. There's not going to be, this magic pill that's going to snap you out of it. You have to look at your life honestly, have a brutal self-reflection about yourself, and decide whether or not you're going to continue doing things that are going to make your life worse in the long run. And that's really what it comes down to. But combining all those things together, I want to leave you with the overall thought pattern, overall takeaway that it is not impossible for you to become motivated. It does not matter what you have done up until this point if you make a change in the future. Those 5 years of my life, from age 20 to 25, where I wasn't doing anything well with my life, they're a blip on the radar to me now. I don't feel them. I barely remember them. I barely remember what it's like to be unmotivated, even though that used to be a heavy weight and force on my life in the past. So just know that it is possible. Take some of the recommendations in this video, make a decision today, start thinking about things you're curious about, and focus on getting better on something and see how that works. And if you're looking for an extra kick in the rear, my book, Real Help and Honest Guide to Self-Improvement, will provide that for you. If you're on YouTube, that's going to be in the description below. All other platforms, I'll have the link posted somewhere, so please go find that, grab that, buy that, and tell the world about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to check out some other videos on the channel or various platforms. I will see you on the next one.